7.5 billion people suddenly lose consciousness for 2.5 minutes, and when they wake up, the world has already changed. Everyone faces baffling consequences unfolding around them, plunging humanity into uncertainty and fear. A man comes to and realizes he's trapped inside an overturned car. Clambering out, he looks around in horror and sees countless injured people. Panic is everywhere: smoke, screams, ruined buildings, smashed cars. In despair, he calls out for Dimitri. 4 hours earlier, the man wakes up next to his wife, Olivia. After having breakfast with their daughter, he gets ready for work. Stepping outside, he runs into the janitor, Hector, and exchanges a few words. At that moment, a car pulls up. It's Nicole, the daughter's nanny. He asks her to stay a few extra hours today since Olivia is working the night shift. Meanwhile, Olivia tries calling her colleague, Dr. Bryce Varley, but he doesn't answer. At the same time, Bryce is standing on a pier, watching surfers. A moment later, he pulls a revolver out of his backpack. Elsewhere in the city, at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, a man shares the story of his deceased daughter. She had been a Marine and died in Afghanistan. She weighed 118 pounds, but he received just 37 pounds of her remains. The loss devastated him, and he turned to drinking. Back at home, taking advantage of Charlie's parents being away, Nicole invites her boyfriend over. She worries a little that the girl might catch them, but it doesn't stop her from being intimate with him. Meanwhile, the man and his partner are surveilling a woman. Between observations, his partner talks about his fiancée, Zoe, and how awkward it will be to dance their first wedding dance to the song she picked. Life continues. The man from the AA club prepares to climb a support structure, while Olivia preps for surgery at the hospital and chats with a nurse about their kids. The agents continue their surveillance. They see an unknown woman with two companions get into a black SUV and drive off. They relay her details over the radio and follow her, but she notices the tail. The agents have no choice but to give chase. At this moment, Bryce is preparing to end his life. Nicole is with her boyfriend. Olivia is on the operating table. And then, something happens. The man sees a strange vision. It's nighttime in his office. Behind him is a huge board filled with names, coordinates, and photos. A few words stand out: Mosaic and Gibbons. He takes a sip from his flask and scribbles a strange note on a piece of paper. Suddenly, red laser sights appear. Masked men are approaching. The next moment, he comes to in the overturned car. Awake again, he sees the city in chaos, buildings burning, streets littered with bodies and wrecked cars. Bryce, having never fired the gun, is lying on the pier. Olivia comes to mid-surgery, having fainted during the operation. Nicole, the electrician, and others all wake up wherever they were, caught off guard by the sudden blackout. An agent walking the street, searching for his partner, tries to calm people, but it's useless. Fear has overtaken them all. Climbing onto a car, he sees the disaster has engulfed the entire city. Suddenly, Dimitri calls out. Fortunately, he's alive. Standing on the pier, Bryce tries to make sense of what just happened. Suddenly, he hears cries for help. Many people were in the water when they blacked out. Without a second thought, he rushes to rescue them. At the same time, Nicole runs to Charlie to make sure the little girl is okay. Seeing her nanny, the child, in a frightened voice, recounts her dream, a nightmare in which there would be no more good days. Meanwhile, the agents are helping the injured and trying to contact their families. Suddenly, they spot the criminal they had been tracking. She's alive. They immediately arrest her, suspecting she's involved in what happened since she had been planning a terrorist attack with accomplices. Hearing this, the surrounding crowd panics even more. The man tries once again to calm everyone, promising that help is on the way, but one bystander interrupts, saying it's not true. He just heard over the radio that people lost consciousness in every state. Realizing they can't do much on the streets, Dimitri insists that his partner head to the hospital to check on his wife. Agreeing, the man sets off toward Olivia. Walking through the city, he sees destruction everywhere, bloodied people, dead bodies, and, oddly, a kangaroo hopping in the distance, its origins unknown. Inside one of the stores, the TV is on. Watching the news report, the agent realizes the blackout happened worldwide. His phone rings. Finally, Olivia is able to get through. She explains she blacked out during surgery and her patient didn't survive. Their conversation is interrupted by a new patient, an 8-year-old boy hit by a car. Examining him, Olivia rushes to prepare the operating room and realizes the boy somehow knows her name. The FBI is in chaos. Agents are scrambling for answers, but the only confirmed fact is that it happened simultaneously worldwide and lasted exactly 2 minutes and 17 seconds. They've ruled out a nuclear strike or chemical attack. NASA is investigating solar flares and gamma radiation, but no confirmed theories have emerged. In the operating room, Olivia fights to save the boy's life. After a tense period, she stabilizes him successfully. Back at the FBI office, a meeting is underway to review the events. Reports show massive casualties. Just in the US, 877 commercial planes were destroyed. Listening to his boss, the man recalls his vision. Suddenly, he realizes he saw the future, not just a dream. Sharing this with the others, he discovers that everyone experienced something similar, and everyone's visions occurred on the same day, April 29, 2010. It seems that everyone's consciousness was shifted 6 months into the future, landing on that single day. A little later, Dmitri brings the suspected terrorist to the FBI and runs into Mark there. Their conversation is interrupted by another agent, who has an idea to find out whether everyone really saw the same day. Unlike the others, he experienced April 30th, but it was 6 a.m., and he was in London, 8 hours ahead of the US. He had been in a meeting with Fiona Banks, and the question was whether she saw him in her vision. Wasting no time, the agents decide to contact her and ask about her dream. To their surprise, she confirms everything. She saw Agent Goff in her vision. Meanwhile, news experts report a startling discovery. During the blackout, many people had been undergoing MRIs, and scans revealed that their brains were active the whole time. Experts believe that each person was seeing their own future. Watching the news, Mark remembers that he had investigated a case called Mosaic. He explains that he saw various photos and a large board full of different clues. The others decide to share what they saw too. Janice was 17 weeks pregnant and had an ultrasound, and their supervisor mentions glimpsing a sports newspaper at a meeting. Listening to his colleagues, Dmitri grows frustrated. Unlike everyone else, he saw nothing. After thinking for a moment, he suggests creating a website where people can share their stories so the agents can analyze them. Mark realizes this idea was part of his own vision, and he also feels that he almost uncovered the cause of the catastrophe. After hearing his team's input, Wydek assigns Mark, Dmitri, and Janice to handle the case. Back in the office, Mark tries to recall everything he saw and reproduce it on the board, but he can remember very little. The case name, D. Gibbons, a photo of a burned doll with a shell casing nearby, the phrase blue hand, a 3-star tattoo on one of the attackers, a bracelet on his own wrist, and that he had started drinking again. After making notes, Dmitri admits that his lack of a vision probably means he's going to die. Mark, however, jokes to lighten the mood and reassures his friend. At the hospital, Olivia learns from Bryce that the boy's mother has died. They know his father's name and workplace but haven't been able to find him yet. During a conversation with the man, Olivia learns that he had planned to commit suicide, but the blackout stopped him. In his vision, he saw himself alive, which he took as a sign from God. Olivia, however, doesn't see it that way. Her vision showed the end of her marriage. Before heading home, Mark meets with his friend from Alcoholics Anonymous. He admits that in his vision, he started drinking again, and if he relapses, Olivia will leave him. His friend offers support and reassurance and, in turn, admits that in his vision, he saw his daughter alive. Though it seemed impossible, the remains had been confirmed by forensic tests as hers. He now has hope that she might still be alive and that he could bring her back. That evening at home, Mark finally fixes the garage door, which had been stuck and wouldn't open all this time. Later, he meets his wife, and they go together to check on their daughter. Lying in bed afterward, they share their visions with each other. Mark tells her everything, except that he started drinking again. Reluctantly, she admits that she saw another man in their house, and it seems she felt strong emotions for him. She doesn't know who he is and has never seen him before. Mark reassures his wife that just because they had these dreams doesn't mean they will actually come true. Meanwhile, Dylan's father, Lloyd Simcoe, arrives at the hospital. He turns out to be the same man from Olivia's vision. Later, Charlie approaches Mark, who is sitting outside. She says she had a terrible dream but doesn't want to talk about it. Then she gives her father a bracelet, just like the one he had on his wrist in his vision. Confused, he accepts the gift, and she fastens it on his wrist. Feeling anxious, he hugs his daughter tightly, holding her close. At the FBI, Dmitri is on the phone with Zoe, talking about her upcoming wedding. Her questions make him nervous, and he dodges them, afraid he might not live to see the celebration. Their conversation is interrupted by Janice, who has been reviewing hours of surveillance footage and discovered something very strange. During the blackout, everyone on the videos faints at the same time, except for one man at a stadium in Detroit, who stays on his feet and calmly walks through the stands. The episode opens with a school scene, showing children lying on the ground. Charlie is standing nearby, watching them. Suddenly, all the kids get up. It turns out they're playing a game called Lights Out. They lie down, wait for a signal, and then get up to share their dreams. However, one girl doesn't like the game and refuses to talk about her nightmare. Her refusal sparks an argument among the classmates, and Charlie decides to run away. Meanwhile, at the FBI office in Los Angeles, Anastasia Markham, an agent from the National Security Service, arrives to find out why this particular branch is leading the investigation into the phenomenon. Not wanting to argue, Mark offers to hand over all the materials. After saying this, he leaves, since his daughter is having problems at school. At the school, the teacher explains that the argument and Charlie's escape happened during an unusual exercise designed by the staff to help kids release emotions tied to a real-life event. She believes Charlie's behavior is caused by some personal issues or experiences at home. Olivia immediately recalls her own vision, and like Mark, concludes that her daughter saw the destruction of her family. After the school discussion, the couple talks about what happened, and Olivia promises she'll do everything she can to keep their family together. Meanwhile, Anastasia reviews the details of the investigation. The agents share everything they know, their findings, conclusions, and observations, but nothing impresses her. Then Janice shows her a video of a man from the Detroit stadium, the so-called Suspect Zero, which finally catches Anastasia's attention and convinces her to support the investigation. After picking up Charlie from school, Olivia takes her to the hospital. There, she meets Lloyd Simcoe, the man from her vision. In talking with him, she realizes he doesn't know her and hasn't seen her in his own vision. He also tells her about his son, who has autism, and admits he doesn't know how to connect with him. Most of the child's time had been spent with his wife, who died during the blackout. Now he's lost and unsure how to tell his son about his mother's death. Not wanting to risk further complications, Olivia directs him to another doctor who can explain the boy's condition. Back at the FBI office, Mark meets Dimitri. His friend notices a bracelet on Mark's wrist and urges him not to wear it, warning that it could increase the chances of the vision coming true. Mark realizes Dimitri is afraid of death and tries to reassure him. If these really are glimpses of the future, they might have a chance to change it. Mark also asks Dimitri about their findings on a certain gibbons. Dimitri replies that there are 15,000 gibbons worldwide, 4,000 in the US, and about 1,000 of them are on police records. The local officers are checking their homes, but it takes time. Mark is convinced the search isn't pointless. He saw the name in his vision, which means this person is important. Their conversation is interrupted by Janice, who informs them that the gibbons they're looking for is a woman, and that she has come to their office herself, asking for Agent Dimitri No. After inviting the woman into the office, the agents learn that her name is Deidre Gibbons. She lives in Anaheim and owns a pastry shop. She explains that she has never been arrested, not even for a speeding ticket. In her vision, she saw herself arguing with someone on the phone and telling an unknown person to speak with FBI agent Dimitri. She doesn't know what it all means, but she decided to share it anyway, hoping it might help. After she leaves, the agents discuss what they heard. Dimitri doesn't believe her and thinks she's lying. Wittig disagrees and orders a full background check. Mark decides to ask his supervisor again about what he saw. Reluctantly, the man admits he wasn't at the meeting. He had been in the restroom, relieving himself. The worst part, the blackout hit him while he was in there, and when he came to and stepped out of the stall, he saw another agent practically drowning in the toilet. He had to pull the man out and perform CPR. Furious that he had to confess the whole truth, Wittig threatens to fire Mark if he tells anyone. Meanwhile, Olivia is talking with her daughter. She recalls her vision and her husband's words, and decides to show Charlie a picture of Lloyd. But the girl has never seen this man before. To Olivia's surprise, however, she recognizes Dylan and becomes very upset. The daughter explains that she saw this boy in her dream. Shortly after, Janice reports that they found more about Deidre Gibbons. Aside from a few parking tickets, she seems almost spotless. The only unusual thing is that multiple purchases were made with her card almost simultaneously, but in different locations, one in her hometown, the other in Utah. Dimitri suspects that someone cloned her card, and maybe in her vision she was arguing with the bank. He also points out that pigeon, which she mentioned, might not actually be a pigeon. Janice immediately confirms the theory. There's a town called Pigeon in Utah. Olivia comes to the office to update Mark. She tells him about the boy their daughter recognized and about Dylan's father, the same man she saw in her vision. Mark is unnerved and angry, worried that the future is actually coming true. Their conversation is interrupted by Dimitri, who reports that a bus ticket has been purchased in Pigeon using the clone card. He tells them a helicopter has already been prepared and everything is ready for departure. The team heads to Utah, where they're met by Sheriff Keegan. She tells them they've set up surveillance on the bus station, if, of course, Gibbons shows up there. During their conversation, it comes out that the sheriff also didn't experience any visions during the blackout. Back at the FBI office, Janice shows Anastasia video footage from the stadium. She's already determined that the person in the footage is a man, but his face is still impossible to make out. She sent a request to the NSA, hoping their systems can enhance the image quality. Anastasia is skeptical. There's too little information, and the criminal needs to be found before he, or they, carry out another, possibly larger, act of destruction. At the hospital, Lloyd approaches Dr. Bryce. He's deeply worried about his son and unsure if everything will be okay. The doctor reassures him, explaining that he's seen the future and knows things will work out. Meanwhile, the agents are on watch at the bus station, but Gibbons never appears. Not wanting to waste more time, they start to leave, until Mark notices an industrial building. The sheriff tells him it's an abandoned doll factory. Remembering the burnt doll from his vision, Mark decides to investigate. Inside, the agents carefully search the building and spot a shadow in a second-floor window. As they climb the stairs, Mark triggers a trap. Dolls hanging from the ceiling start singing loudly. Realizing their presence has been detected, the agents drop caution and break into the room. There, they see the silhouette of a man clearly unwilling to surrender. He detonates all his equipment in an attempt to escape. A shootout ensues, and Sheriff Keegan is killed. Later, while inspecting the factory with experts, Mark spots the burnt doll, the same one from his vision. At that moment, Dimitri approaches him and mentions that Gibbons is likely also investigating the cause of the blackout. Back at the office, Mark pins a photo of the doll on his board, trying to recall any other details. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mr. Simcoe finally decides to tell his son that his mother has died. To his surprise, the boy reacts calmly and then asks for Olivia. He wants to see her. The request leaves the man stunned. Some time later, at the FBI office, Janice updates her team. She managed to pull the call logs from Gibbons' phone, which they found at the abandoned factory. One of the calls was made within the first 30 seconds of the blackout, meaning this unknown man wasn't the only person conscious at that time. She even traced the call and discovered that Gibbons was speaking with the man from the stadium, the same one they saw in the footage. Some time later, Dimitri talks with Janice. He opens up about his fears. After the death of the sheriff, who also didn't have a vision, he's almost certain the same thing will happen to him. Janice suggests he post on the Mosaic website. Maybe someone else had seen something about him in their visions. If he can learn the circumstances of his death, it might help him change the outcome. She herself had posted on the site to find the doctor who had performed her ultrasound. Reluctantly, Dimitri agrees and leaves his information on the site. At home, Mark talks with Olivia. He shares his worries with her. At work, he's doing everything to make the future unfold exactly as he saw it. At home, however, he wishes for the opposite. Still, he's glad that his wife told him everything. He believes they shouldn't deceive each other. In that moment, he remembers drinking in his vision but decides once again not to tell Olivia about it. Late at night, Mark goes into his daughter's room. When he kisses her goodnight, she wakes up and tells him about her vision. It was very disturbing, and she doesn't understand what it means. She saw Gibbons, and he was very bad. Her words leave Mark in shock. Walking through the parking lot, Dimitri gets a call from an unknown woman. She tells him that in her vision, she saw a secret file stating that he will die on March 15, 2010. The document doesn't say who will kill him, but it's definitely a murder. Someone will shoot him 3 times in the chest. She can't share any more and is forced to end the call. But Dimitri feels this isn't enough information, so he immediately calls her back, only to be met with an automated message saying the number doesn't exist. Meanwhile, in Germany, an elderly Nazi criminal named Geyer, serving time in a Munich prison, tells a guard that he saw in his vision information that could finally get him out of jail. At home, Mark is getting ready for work. His wife tries to reach the nanny, but she still doesn't pick up. Mark reassures his wife not to worry, promising he'll pick up their daughter from school and spend time with her. Just then, there's a knock at the door. Aaron has arrived. To hide the real reason for Aaron's visit from Olivia, Mark lies, saying his work phone is broken and Aaron came to fix it. Once in the office, Aaron expresses frustration and urges Mark to be honest with his wife if he doesn't want to ruin their family. Not wanting to listen to a lecture, Mark quickly changes the subject. He tells Aaron that Charlie saw Gibbons in her vision, and now he's afraid the girl could get caught up in dangerous adult games. Aaron understands and advises him to do everything possible to protect his family. Meanwhile, Zoe messages Dimitri. She's finally on a plane heading home. The man sitting next to her asks about her work, and she explains she's a criminal defense attorney. He responds that he's the CEO of an airline and currently traveling to reassure clients that flying is safe again. Despite trying to appear calm, he's clearly anxious. Back at the office, Dimitri asks a colleague to track the unknown call and find out who called him, urgently. At the same time, Mark and his team review documents and reports from other countries. Among them, a statement from someone in Germany catches their attention. Former Nazi Rudolf Geyer claims to know why the blackout lasted exactly 137 seconds. Mark immediately recalls that this number appeared in his vision, along with a photo of this man. A colleague adds that Geyer is willing to share everything with Agent Mark Benford, the very name he saw in the vision. Right after meeting with his team, Mark heads to Weddick to get approval for a trip to Germany. The chief thinks it will be a waste of time, but Mark manages to convince him otherwise. Later, Dimitri meets Zoe at the airport with a bouquet of flowers. She wants to tell him about her vision, but he dodges the topic and drives her to the hotel instead. Meanwhile, Aaron visits a bar where his ex-wife works. He tries to convince her that in his vision, he saw their daughter alive. Since everyone has seen parts of the future, there's a chance she might still be alive. He wants to exhume the body and run a DNA test, but his ex-wife refuses to listen. She saw her daughter's remains, attended the funeral, and knows for certain she's dead. She says Aaron is living in illusions and refuses to sign any paperwork, then physically pushes him out of the bar. Later, lying in bed with Dimitri, Zoe finally shares her vision. She saw their wedding in Hawaii, on the beach, barefoot, wearing a white dress, and he was there too. It was a magical day. Confused, Dimitri lies and says he saw the same thing, suggesting they move the wedding date. But Zoe refuses. Her vision showed April 29th, so fate itself has chosen the day. Some time later, Mark arrives in Munich at Quail Prison. There, he meets with local German agents, and together they go to see the inmate. Rudolf, along with his lawyer, is already waiting. The criminal offers a deal. He will reveal everything he knows in exchange for release, dropping all charges, and returning to the US, where he lived before his arrest and extradition. After the meeting, Mark discusses the situation with Janice. She is convinced they shouldn't accept the deal. This inmate is an unrepentant mass murderer, and his victims deserve justice. She warns that the information he provides could turn out to be worthless. Listening to his partner, Mark struggles with doubt, unsure of what decision to make. Meanwhile, the FBI chief Weddick's wife is having lunch with Olivia. She asks her friend about her vision, but Olivia dodges the question. So the woman shares her own. She saw a little boy living in her son's room. Everyone says these are fragments of the future, so she believes that within the coming months, she will become a mother figure to a child. After some thought, Mark returns to the prisoner. His lawyer suggests a compromise. They'll reveal part of the information immediately so it can be verified, and the rest will be disclosed after Rudolph's release. The agent agrees to this. Rudolph then begins talking about the Jews and a mystical organization called Kabbalah. He explains that if you translate the name into Hebrew and add up the numerical value of each letter, you get the number 137. Mark is furious. He thinks it's complete nonsense. In a burst of anger, he gives the Nazi exactly 1 minute. If he doesn't provide any genuinely useful information, Mark will simply walk away. In response, Rudolph reveals that in a vision he was repatriated to the US, which makes the second part of his story crucial to the investigation, meaning they'll have to meet all his conditions. He also mentions a meeting he had at an American airport with a border officer, giving the name Jerome Murphy. After hearing this, the lawyer suggests verifying the information to ensure it's accurate. The German agents are outraged. They refuse to release a murderer or make any kind of deal. At that moment, Mark's phone rings. On the line is Aaron, asking a favor. He wants to exhume Tracy's remains for DNA testing, but he doesn't have permission from his ex-wife. Mark tries to talk him out of it, warning what might happen if the test again confirms it's his daughter. But Aaron is certain he saw her alive and is willing to take the risk. Mark passes all the information to the office. Dmitri checks the lists of all border officers but finds nothing on Jerome Murphy. He reports back to Wydeck, who advises checking the candidate lists. Perhaps Murphy hasn't been officially hired yet. After reviewing the lists, the agent finds him and goes to his home. Confronting him there, Dmitri confirms Rudolph's vision. Jerome had also seen himself as a border officer, though he didn't believe it at the time. In his vision, he interacted with a German and recounts the same events as the prisoner. While waiting to verify Geyer's information, Mark and Janice sit in a restaurant. Janice is frustrated and upset that they have to work with such people. In her view, there should at least be a line they refuse to cross. But Mark reminds her that they often make deals, for example, letting a dealer go to catch a bigger drug distributor, and he believes that Geyer's information will be extremely valuable. At that moment, Mark's phone rings again. It's Wydeck, who says they've located the border officer and everything checks out. He'll call the State Department to arrange the Nazis' release with the German government. Meanwhile, Dmitri brings Aaron the papers authorizing the exhumation. Showing them to him, the agent then hands the documents to the workers, who immediately get to work. A little later, Dmitri learns that the only thing they could determine is that the call came from the New York coast, and it's impossible to tell which of the 3 cell towers the signal passed through. Obviously, the caller had expertly concealed their location. After a moment of thought, Dmitri asks for the logs from all 3 towers, even though he knows they'll contain millions of calls. With permission from the German government, Mark informs Rudolph that he is now a free man. Immediately, Rudolph recounts the second part of his vision. Like everyone else, he lost consciousness and saw his own release, then woke up back in his cell. Looking out the window, he saw dead crows lying across the courtyard. The entire ground was covered with them. He also admits that he has no idea why the blackout lasted exactly 137 seconds. Along with this, he hands the agents a book about birds. He doesn't know what it all means, but in his vision, he saw that this information would help with the investigation. The agents are furious. They realize they've been tricked, but it's too late to turn back. Some time later, Aaron returns to the bar to see his ex-wife. He tells her she was right, their daughter really is dead. The DNA test confirmed it. He apologizes for giving her false hope and for acting behind her back. Seeing his genuine remorse, Casey forgives him and comforts him. Meanwhile, the FBI holds a funeral for the fallen agents. Wydeck gives a heartfelt speech, and at that moment, his wife spots the boy from her vision, the one she will soon become a mother to. After the funeral, all the agents gather at a bar to honor the deceased. Dmitri talks with Zoe and decides to agree to the wedding on April 29th. If it's our fate, he says, let it happen. Suddenly, a comment from one of the agents sparks an idea in Mark. Had similar events happened before, perhaps on a smaller scale, which is why they hadn't heard of them. Taking Janice with him, he returns to the office and asks her to check the crow population over the past year. From the charts, he sees that during the blackout, crows were dying worldwide. He asks her to look for other years with similar sharp declines in crow populations. Reviewing the data, she discovers a similar event occurred in 1991 in Somalia. According to the report, not only did birds die en masse, but there was also widespread human unconsciousness. Mark realizes that in their rush to understand the events of October 6th and prevent them from happening again, they hadn't even thought to study the past. Southern Somalia, Ganwar region, 1991. Walking across the plains, a small boy leads a tiny herd of goats. Suddenly, he notices a flock of crows in the sky, and in the next moment, they fall dead to the ground. Climbing a nearby hill, he sees the dead birds below, a small town, and a towering structure emitting thick, strange smoke. If you could see a future event that would change your entire life, would you try to alter its course, or accept it as inevitable? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.